Hey Trailblazers! Thanks for tuning in to Trailhead Live. We hope you're well and safe wherever you live. Several weeks ago, many of us hadn't heard of the term social distancing, and many of us had not been working remotely full-time, but times have changed. Today, we'll be talking about the impact social distancing may or may not have on remote work. I'm Rebecca Leader, and I work in our customer success group at Salesforce. I've been working remotely for over 5 years since day one here. I'll be sharing some tips and tricks today about how to maximize remote work and how to better connect with your colleagues and your network, even from a distance. Let's begin. By the end of this session, you'll be able to answer the following. What is social distancing? What impact does it have on remote work? What's one myth about the social distancing impact on remote work? How do I connect and build relationships out of an office? And how do I develop my career from a distance? So what is social distancing? One definition that I found talks about how public officials use this method to stop or slow the spread of a highly contagious disease. This is the world that we're living in right now, and we all have a responsibility to contribute to a healthier world. So you may have noticed that your offices may have been closed, you're not able to participate in some of your normal activities, and even in my case, some concert tickets that I purchased are going to have to be used in a future time. Another phrase that I found when doing some research is that physical distancing might better explain what we're going through, because it has to do with not being together physically with colleagues, with individuals in our families and our friends, but that doesn't mean that we can't still interact socially. It doesn't mean that we can't have virtual meetings or talk on the phone or even chat or text. So I'd like you to consider using the term physical distancing as we talk about this new world that we're living in. For the purpose of this presentation, we'll be talking about social distancing, sort of as the standard phrase that we've been using, many of us, in our daily language. You might be thinking, how do I even face this new reality? Or you may have been living in it for quite some time already. But we're here to tell you that Salesforce and our ohana, or our family, is here for you, and you are not alone. We have many resources to share, and we're here to help you along your journey as you navigate this new reality. So what impact does social distancing have on remote work? Here are 4 considerations. Social distancing may be impacting your environment, your physical activity, your time management, and your communication. One thing that I've noticed is that when it comes to all 4 of these elements, one thing that's very clear is that our personal and our professional lives have now really merged. They're all mixed up. So let's dive into each one at a time. When it comes to environment, the environment that you work in and the environment that you live in, that has become one and the same in most cases. Also, if you're used to changing your environment, you're used to being on the road in your role or in your job for work, that's not happening right now. So how do we accommodate for this change? This is very different from our normal routine. You might find yourself spending more time indoors if you're not traveling, if you're not commuting, if you're not going from point A to point B or from one meeting to another. At Salesforce, at our headquarters, we have multiple buildings, so it takes time to walk from one meeting to another. You're trying to be productive where you typically recharge, which might be home. And it might help to bring the outdoors in because we're not finding ourselves outdoors as much. So let's talk about some tips here on the right. First, designate a dedicated office space, whether it's a desk at a table or an office in your home, away from personal distractions if possible, to create that consistency so that you have that place as your dedicated workspace. If you're used to traveling or you thrive on a change of scenery, as I do, you might take some favorite photos from your recent vacations or your favorite places to visit and make them your screensaver on your computer or your phone. In terms of finding yourself indoors a lot, build in time to your schedule to get outdoors every day if possible, if the weather allows. even for chores, to take out the trash more often, or recycling, walking the dog, exercise. Maybe take a call or two with a headset or headphones if you're able to, so that you can still get some of the fresh air and keep your workday going. Implement some office-like habits, like make sure you're sitting in an upright chair rather than the couch. Set your work hours so that your family members and your coworkers know when you're actually on in the office. And you might want to consider even putting on a work shirt or putting on an outfit that makes you feel like you're going to the office. While we do have, many of us, the luxury of working in more comfortable apparel while working from home, it might make you feel more in the work zone if you change what you're wearing. And lastly, bring plants, flowers, candles to your workspace. Open windows, let in the light, and give your space some extra life and freshen it up, since you're going to be indoors a little bit more than you might be normally. Next, you might notice your physical activity has changed. Maybe you have a yoga class that you get to after work every day at the same time, or you like to work out before work. These things might have changed with your new routine. You might also notice, your meetings are all in one place, so you're not moving around from meeting to meeting. It's easy to wake up, go from the bed straight to your desk, and get started working right away. You may not be as comfortable in your home office space as you are when you get to work and you have all of your equipment and all of your belongings in one place. And if you're not as physically active as you normally are, then you might not be sleeping as well, and you might not feel as good. So let's talk about some tips here on the right. Make sure that you're moving around, even if it's between phone calls, between meetings. Stand up and stretch. Build an exercise into your schedule. Actually put them on your calendar so that some of your meetings can be scheduled around it when it allows. Make sure you're exercising before work, after work, or during the day. Build in time for breakfast. That might be something you didn't have time to do before when you were on the go. Now that you're home, you might have the ability to do that before work, or create some morning activities before sitting down to work, so that you do have a little bit of separation between home and work. Set up a standing desk. Even if you don't have a desk that moves, you might consider using or purchasing a riser for your screen, or put your screen on a stack of books if that works. Make sure your chair is comfortable and that you have the tools that you need. Movement also helps you focus and helps you be your best self at work. So consider moving around as much as you can, even when you're at home. Time management. Many of us have seen our routines go out the window recently, and it's been changed upside down. We might have families, we might have our roommates nearby, and our schedule is just upside down. So this is causing some confusion, but there are some tips on how to tackle this. Your meal times might be confusing because you're near the kitchen and you don't necessarily have a dedicated lunchtime. Every day might feel the same. If you're living and working at home, your weekdays and your weekend days might feel like they all blend together. And you might not have that time in between meetings to transition properly because you're going from call to call. So here are some tips on the right. Set a new schedule. So we all eventually formed a routine previously. Maybe it had to do with what time we had to be at the office, or maybe it was a train schedule. Create a new routine, whether write it down or put it into your calendar. You can build in meal times. You can use previous commute times to take care of your family needs that might have arisen recently. And you can just build that new schedule in a way that works for you. Set your meal times. We mentioned this before. Also make sure that you have snacks and hydration at your desk so that you don't forget to eat to stay healthy throughout the day. Keep up your daily activities from before. So maybe your kids had a dance class after school, or they played soccer. Maybe these things can still take place even at home. So after the typical school hours, maybe there's a virtual dance class that you can join, or play outside at a distance, of course. If you're used to having Friday lunch with a friend, keep doing it. Just make it virtual. And make sure to use your weekend times to recharge. If you're near your desk, or you know that there's some work waiting in your inbox, you might try to work if you're at home and you're nearby, but try not to work if you can help it, and if you don't have something time sensitive. And lastly, this is something that I do often, shorten your meetings, your 30-minute meetings to 25 minutes, your hour-long meetings to 45 or 55 minutes. Use those extra 5 or 15 minutes between meetings to stretch, grab some nourishment, snacks, or a drink. Make sure to check in with your health and maybe even check in with your family. One tip here, I use Google Calendar, and there is a setting where you can adjust your meeting time so that anytime you set up a meeting, it automatically adjusts to 25 or 55 minutes, for example. And this can also give your coworkers an extra time to stretch or have quick transition time before their next call begins. Communication. While many of us communicate through a variety of channels, if you're like me, I've been on the phone nonstop. My battery's been dying very frequently because I've been on the phone, not just for work, but also with family and friends, checking in, making sure everyone's doing okay. So your communication is important, especially at work, especially when your team is operating remotely. So you might meet some team member, family members, friends, pets on video calls. I personally have met several of my colleagues' kids and pets recently, and I really enjoyed it. It was a way to get to know my team members on a more personal level, and this is life as we know it right now. Team members might feel more disconnected in their personal lives if we feel like we aren't able to see our family and friends when we would like to. We might feel like we don't have as much communication at work as well. So for managers, make sure that we want to provide regular work updates as things are changing in the world around us and our companies are adjusting. So at Salesforce, we use our collaboration tool, Chatter and Quip, and email, obviously, to stay connected. And we schedule extra check-in calls if needed. We do try to keep our normal schedule, but we also try to ask our teams if there's anything that they need differently now. And in terms of team members, if you have a manager, share regular updates about your projects and your progress with your managers and your teams. If you're not in person and you're not sharing those updates, maybe in the office when you run into each other in the hallway, then it can be really helpful to be proactive in communicating progress to your team and your leaders on a more regular basis. And if you find yourself needing more check-ins or more communication, or you feel disconnected, then simply ask for it. Your team members may not be accustomed to working from home, and so they might not be quite used to the use of video calls just yet. If you use your video more frequently, it tends to spread like wildfire, so it gives more confidence. If one person's using it, others might be more inclined to use it, and it can boost personal connection. Can also be a great way to read emotion and see how people are feeling. And we can also be understanding if someone's not quite there today, or they aren't ready to share their camera, or their home office is still being set up, or they're just having one of those days. Use noise canceling headphones to limit distractions and boost productivity during your work hours. And use time between work calls and after hours to check in with family and friends. So I mentioned, shortening meetings to 25 minutes, 45 or 55. That gives you a few extra minutes to check in with family, check in with friends, maybe return a phone call. Everyone's, wanting to be more connected and make sure that those that we love and those that we work with are doing okay. Also, it's important to communicate with our teams, with our leadership about personal needs. So we might have some more family matters popping up. We might need to join a call 5 or 10 minutes late. And as long as we have clear expectations that we'll share if we have a different need, or we see that we might need a little bit of extra time on a deadline, then the lines of communication are open and everyone's on the same page. The good news about all of these 4 elements that are impacted by social distancing is that technology can help fill the gaps. So we'll go here on the left-hand side first. First, make sure to set standard tools across your organization. Your teams might want to know, what should we be using for our video calls? What should we be using to collaborate on projects? How should we be communicating our status of our projects back to our team or to our leadership? And is your organization one that uses chat often? Or is it more email-based? So standardizing those tools and enabling your teams to collaborate and to work remotely would reduce the challenges that might come up when you're not in the office, and also boost collaboration and communication. If allowed, if secure, and if you're comfortable doing so, you can often set up email and chat on your smartphone. So that way, if you need to step away from your desk, if you're making lunch for your kids, you can still respond to a work email or a chat if needed, and you don't have to interrupt the workday, and it gives you a little bit more flexibility. Find apps that help you maintain productivity and life balance. So collaboration apps, as we mentioned, if you're sharing documents or commenting or collaborating on a new project together. We use Quip at Salesforce, and Google Drive might be another example. Make sure that you're collaborating with your teams, and you don't always have to be in person to do that. Music apps, they can help you for concentration. So, download your favorite music app if your technology allows for it and your company allows for it, or use it on your personal device. Fitness apps can help you with virtual classes online or for reminders to stand up periodically if you haven't moved in a while. And you might use photo sharing to stay connected with family and friends during the workday. Also, the age of social media, comes to the forefront here. Social media can be a really great way to stay connected across your company, with your colleagues, with news, and it can be a great way to keep your professional and personal relationships top of mind. It might also be, a form of humor. It's a great way to share helpful and entertaining updates that other people can engage with. So embrace technology in the ways that it works well for your culture, your organization, and in a way that doesn't take away from your work, but instead adds to it. So what's one myth about the social distancing impact on remote work? We talked about environment, activity, time management, communication that were impacted by social distancing. But one thing I did not mention was relationships. And that's because I'm a huge builder of relationships from a distance. Of course, nothing beats a handshake, an in-person coffee meeting, and sometimes even a hug. But I am a huge believer, and I have experience building lots of relationships across our organization and across my professional network working remotely. So let's talk about it. I think relationships fall into the bucket of how to develop your career from a distance, so we'll use this as the umbrella here. Work relationships can thrive from a distance, so this is the myth that's busted. When career development goes virtual, we can talk about two categories: relationship building and also career growth. How do you do these things from a distance? So how do you build relationships, grow relationships, continue nurturing relationships among your career, in your office, with your colleagues, with your managers, when you don't see them in an office or you don't see them face to face? There are lots of options. So here are some tips that I have for you. The first is to orient yourself. So if you find yourself, being invited to a meeting with others that you've never met before, if you were in an office, you might have the opportunity to meet them in person. But in this case, you might turn to tools like an internal organization chart, or you might use LinkedIn, Chatter, maybe Twitter, to do a little bit of research beforehand to see who they are, what their experience is, what their expertise is before you connect. So try to learn about those that you're going to be meeting with before you connect with them. Luckily, digital tools help us do that. Connect through others. So often when I'm introduced to someone or I'm asked to meet with someone that I've never met before, I ask for an introduction, and that helps make the connection a bit easier. It makes it smoother. We have something in common to start off with, and that's kind of the first step to open the door. Present yourself. So similarly to how you would research someone before you meet with them, you would like to put out information about your own experience, your own career, and your own interests so that others can learn about you before meeting, or just to see what you've been up to lately. So amp up your professional profile description, whether it's on Salesforce Chatter, whether it's on LinkedIn, etc., so that others can get to know you. Add your Trailhead badges, any professional certifications or credentials, any personal interests. These are more things to talk about when you connect with others from a distance that you might not pick up on when you meet them in person, if you're not able to meet them in person. Join a team. So while you may be on a team at work and you have your role, there are also teams that exist outside of work, similar to, a recreational sports team. Currently, a lot of initiatives are sprouting up to support local communities, especially in this time of need. So you might hear about from a friend or a colleague, a charitable team or a project that can help your community and help those that need it right now. It's a great way to meet new people. All right, we have another set of tips to build relationships from a distance. The first is to contribute. Something I try to do is anytime I have a meeting with someone new, I try to bring a new idea to the conversation. So whether I picked up on something from the research that I did beforehand, or once we start to talk, I get to know a little bit more about their lifestyle or their work, and I will try to contribute some kind of idea that they can take away. It might even be a personal idea. Maybe they're struggling to find, a family fitness class online, and maybe I know of one that I can share. So I try to be helpful right away to continue to nurture those relationships. Water cooler chats, as they might be known, are simply those casual conversations that sometimes happen in an office when you're getting coffee or you're in the hallway or you're at the water cooler. These can still happen. They might take a little bit of planning, but they can happen virtually, one-on-one. I've personally said about 4 or 5 in the last couple of weeks with colleagues from my previous team, old managers, etc., and simply to ask, how are you doing? This new climate is causing all kinds of challenges and new dynamics, even simply working remotely, and just asking how you're doing has positive health benefits according to research. So this is a great chance to, build 25 minutes into your calendar with someone that you'd like to reconnect with or check in on and see how someone's doing and offer to help if you can. Gathering is really important. And while we can't do it in person just yet, hopefully soon, we still have a need to connect. It's part of our human nature. So setting up virtual calls and meetings to bring people together with similar interests can really fill a gap right now, whether it's related to books, music, lifestyle, industry, among your colleagues or outside of your organization. If you don't see a group that you're looking to connect with, go ahead and create it. Community is really important. There are all kinds of communities we can be a part of right now, many of them virtual, like our Trailblazer community. If you're not familiar, it is a great way to get to know others who use Salesforce products and have like-minded interests. So you can learn, you can ask questions, you can get answers, and this is why we created the Trailblazer community, so that we all have somewhere to go and we have a tribe to belong to. And reconnect. Now is a great time to catch up with former managers, as I mentioned, colleagues, people that you've met maybe at a networking event or a potential customer, and said, let's get together sometime. Here's that time. A special note for managers, how do we connect outside of an office with our teams? So, it has to do with checking in a little bit more with your teams, keeping regular meetings so that your teams feel like they have that connection with you. Check up individually. So, sending an individual personal email really makes someone feel special, makes them feel valued and heard, and gives an opportunity for them to share anything personal that they feel they may need to share that they may not want to share in a group setting. Listen, so whether you're on a team call or someone responds to an email, listen for cues where your team members need help right now. Share with other managers and with your team. Share employee and industry resources that can help and inspire our teams. Our teams really need a little bit of positivity right now. And learn. This is a great time to learn, how to be a manager and a proactive leader during times of challenge and times of change. So I believe this is a great time to sign up for manager trainings. There are virtual manager trainings you can join. Trailhead also has trails on leadership. And it's a great time to boost our leadership skills as we're all trying to lead through change. All right, and our last topic here for how to build our career from a distance is about growth. So we might be thinking, how do I even begin to grow my career when everything seems to be changing right now and I'm not in an office in my typical environment? So here are some tips to get you started. First and foremost, I believe, delivering on our primary responsibilities of our role, as much as we can. We are balancing family, we're balancing health in a different way. And so delivering on our role is the first place to start in terms of career growth. We may need to communicate if we need additional help or we feel like we need a different deadline to deliver on our responsibilities, but that's kind of where it begins. And I personally feel like consistency is helpful during this time as well. So maintaining consistency with your performance, communicating with your managers and your teams is really important. Above and beyond delivering, we are revisiting expectations. So we might need to embrace a new reality. Our company goals may be shifting due to this new climate. Our roles might be shifting. And so setting new expectations is a great place to start, and having that conversation with our manager about how we can not only contribute in our role, but our companies can contribute to, or our organizations can contribute to the world and what it needs right now. Fill the gaps. So as things are changing, we might find new opportunities to support our organizations, our customers, our constituents, and our communities. And so this is a great time to grow our careers by applying our skills in new ways. When we see that there's a need, we can raise our hands or just get started, just test out a new idea and run with it. A colleague last week met with me and said, I have this idea on how we can help others during this time in our organization. And, about a week later, we're just about, a few days away from making that idea a reality. So share your idea with others and try to fill those gaps. All right, the last batch here of tips for growing your career from a distance. First, reviews. I personally find that it's helpful as an employee and as a manager to keep talent reviews consistent, even through times of change. That might mean reviewing what our goals were at the beginning of the year and completely changing them, or it might mean staying on track with certain goals. Personal goals, I try to keep as consistent as possible, but of course we have personal things that are coming up that we need to adjust for. So as long as we're staying aligned with our managers and our leadership regarding our performance and that we're staying on track with goals that we have as a company and in our own personal lives is an important conversation to have ongoing, even if it's changing. Learn. As I mentioned, this is a great opportunity to sign up for virtual trainings. Lots of conferences have been rescheduled for digital versions. And Trailhead, of course, you can learn for free on Trailhead a lot about Salesforce products, but also about topics like leadership and managing remote workforces. And of course, watch Trailhead Live. You're already doing that. So I think this is a great time to boost our learning, and we can continue to grow our careers even during this time of change. Try something new. Many of us are trying new recipes. We're jumping onto virtual meetings like we never have before. We might be getting more artistic at home, taking up a new instrument or running. So a lot of these new activities might bring some creativity to the workplace. It also brings a nice balance for those of us who are working and living at home. And lastly, community, as we mentioned before, it's so important to connect with others. So joining virtual communities related to any of your interests, and professionally, as we mentioned, Trailblazer community is here for you if you're looking to learn how to use Salesforce during these new times and this new climate. And as we wrap, we do have some resources for you here. I did want to mention that Trailhead does have a module on virtual collaboration. We have a trail mix on managing a remote workforce. We have a blog post and a series about how we are helping our employees navigate work remotely and navigate work in times of change, and some of the resources that I've referenced here today. Thank you so much for your time. We hope you stay well, stay safe, and stay healthy, and we hope to connect with you again very soon.